Hi friends and family, it's Nathan. I just wanted to post a video since I've never really done anything like this before and I'm stuck inside because Seattle's experiencing a ton of smoke in the air right now, and just kind of talk to you about like what I do on a day off for, a little bit more of a glamorous skincare into makeup routine. So first thing, once a week, I like to do a really intense mask just to kind of cleanse myself, especially this week from everything going on. So I combine a couple of things. I start with the May Lindstrom, the Problem Solver Mask. It's a fun mixture of vitamin C, different herbs, there's frankincense, chocolate, so it's just and charcoal. There's a very deep purifying element to it. I take this little Petri dish, and it's a powder mask, so it keeps for a very long time, which is fantastic because it's very pricey. So I just am gonna scoop a little bit out. I usually do 2 scoops. It looks like this. And I put it into the bowl. And then put the lid back on because we want to make sure to preserve that as long as possible. It looks like this in the bowl. And then I add 2 of my other favorite products in. This is from Neutrogena, actually. It's the Clear Pore Cleanser Mask. It's going to have a little bit of benzoyl peroxide just to help because I am acneic. So I just squirt a tiny bit. It kind of has this consistency into the bowl with the powder. And then the final thing that I add to it, sometimes I'll add a little bit of water if I need to, is Biologique Recherche's lotion P50V. I have drier skin, so it kind of helps me with my sensitivity. So I usually add, it's just a liquid kind of chemical exfoliant. I usually add about 7 drops into here. And then I just take this, what I used to scoop it with, and just kind of stir it up. You want to have like almost a very fizzy consistency. So since we're not quite there yet, I'm gonna add a couple of drops of water into it, just so it doesn't get too intense. And then I'm just gonna keep mixing it up. Until all of the powder is mixed into the liquid. This is what it looks like now, that foamy texture. And then I'm going to start applying it directly to my face. I haven't cleansed today yet since I haven't really gone anywhere. And whenever I'm doing this mask, what I do is I just do a little bit of hot water just all over my face just to kind of rinse off anything from the night and just make sure that my pores are open and ready for this mask. You can kind of customize the texture on this. I prefer, just because I do have sometimes sensitized skin because of the environment in a city, should just kind of put like a very light foaming texture on. And so I apply this all over my face. I usually, like I said, I start with my forehead and then I like to do the cheeks. I just kind of like to focus on those areas where that congestion's concentrated first, and then I kind of will go over the face with any excess. I do pull it down the neck sometimes too, just to make sure that we're not forgetting about the neck because it needs vitamin C and exfoliation too, for sure. And this tool, by the way, is from Sephora. It's a mask applicator. I like it a lot just because this mask does get very messy, so I just like to make sure that I'm not getting my hands all covered in gunk. And it applies it very evenly. That way you're not getting too much of a concentrate on one spot. And with this mask, you actually leave it on quite a while. You're gonna leave it on about 45 minutes to an hour. So once this is applied, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Throw on a movie before I start the rest of my routine. So that's what it kind of looks like overall. And I never like to waste this just because it's too expensive. And so I just make sure that every little spot is covered all the way up to that fun receding hairline I have going on. All right, so once that's done, I just go ahead and throw some water in here just to kind of soak it, because it will get kind of a dry texture. You'll see. I'll show you guys like when it's all dry what it kind of looks like. Get that off the lip. All right, I'll see you guys in a few minutes. All right, guys, this is what it looks like when it's pretty much fully dried. It's been on for about 50 minutes. So I'm gonna hop in the shower, rinse this off, get back to you, and we'll start with some skincare. All right, I'm back. I've showered. My hair looks like a fun little Jake Gyllenhaal Nightcrawler mess. So I'm gonna start with cleanser. I just like to take a little bit of cold water, just kind of pat it on my face before I apply the cleanser. That way it just foams up a little bit. I use the Simple Micellar Gel Wash. I really like this just because there's not a lot of ingredients in it, and my skin is a little bit on the drier side for the most part. So I just prefer just like a, you know, light gel cleanser that doesn't foam up too much. This is about how much it foams up. Just apply it all over and just kind of work it into circular motion just to kind of amp up that blood flow in the skin. Kind of helps with my redness. Then I'm just gonna take a little cold water and rinse it off. I like to use cold water preferably just because it kind of helps with my pores. Shrink them up a little bit before a makeup application. I'm gonna dry that off. And I always pat dry. You never want to pull with whatever cloth or item that you're using. If you're pulling on the skin, then you're just creating tension. You could break a capillary on your nose. And that's just not it at all, sis. All right. Next up I go in with is a toner. I love the Dickinson's Witch Hazel toner. It's 100% witch hazel. My amazing esthetician, Arizona Vanessa, used to use it on me, and I just kind of fell in love. It does smell a little strong, but it's light, it doesn't burn, and it just kind of helps purify the skin a little bit. I like to press and then just do a light tapping motion. Next, I go in with the You to the People Adaptogen Mist. Love this one because it's just a really light spritz on the skin. It has a nice, just soft, natural fragrance in it. Just kind of pat that in. Then I go in for eyes. I always like doing eyes before I start with a facial serum. I've been really loving the caffeine eye cream from Inculus right now. So I just go in with it just a tiny bit on both sides. And then you always want to pat in with your ring finger. And don't drag, just pat. And then I do a tiny bit on the corners too, just to kind of help with those crow's feet. And then I put a little bit on my laugh lines as well. Next, I go in, since it's AM, sort of, I go in with my Andalou Turmeric and Vitamin C Serum. That's just about out. I like that it has turmeric in it because I do struggle with acne. So that just kind of helps me to keep that at bay while still keeping my skin nice, bright, and free of aging and dark spots, hopefully. Then I'm gonna go in with a couple lip treatments. I love this Sephora lip balm into scrub. It's in the honey flavor. It has just a tiny bit of exfoliation in it, not a whole lot. And just kind of slightly rub it on the lips. And then I like the Algenist Genius Lip Collagen. I throw that on top just to kind of keep the lips moisturized while I'm starting my eyes. Then I go in with the Caudalie, the Vena Source Moisturizer. I just started using this one pretty recently. I had it laying around for my Sephora day, so I figured I should dig into it. has kind of a nice like gel cream consistency. And just pat that in and pull it down the neck. And then I put the little leftover on my hands because they've been really dry because gloves at work are no fun. Then I take this little facial roller. I got it at this local Asian market called Uwajimaya. And I just go over this. I put it in the fridge for a couple minutes. It just kind of helps stimulate that circulation. And I just kind of go in along my cheekbones and my jawline, across the forehead, and then down the neck. And then back up. Just to kind of release any lymphatic pressure. Final step, most important step, Ren Mineral Sunscreen. I cake this on every day. There's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to sunscreen and sun care. Like, you know, all skin colors. Doesn't matter if you're darkest or the lightest, need to be wearing this every day, all the time. All the way down the neck, on your ears, on the back of your neck, because anyone can get sunspots and sun damage from the UV rays. It doesn't matter if it is a rainy day in Seattle, blizzardy day in Montana, or a sunny day in Arizona. It doesn't matter what. You need to have sunscreen on all the time, anytime you're leaving the house. Super important. My #1 skincare rule, honestly. All right. I gave my skincare about like 3 minutes just to kind of sink in because I like to give it a little time if I have the time between just going straight into any sort of makeup application. So the first thing I like to do is I like to put on kind of my primers and my base, then switch to eyes and then back to complexion. So for primers, for my whole face, I actually mix a couple different things. I mix the Embryolisse concentrate. I love this because it's super hydrating. Then the Banana Bright face primer just to kind of brighten me up. And then the De-Bronzy just to give me a little bit of a tan because unfortunately I am very pale this summer because of COVID. I haven't been outside as much as I normally would be. So that's the Embryolisse. Then I add in a pump of the Ole Henriksen right there, not Olay. Sorry, brain. And then the De-Bronzy Anti-Pollution Serum. Just right in there. Mix that all together. And then just press it in. All the way down the neck. Well, please hold. Then next, I go in with the Laura Mercier Pure Canvas Primer. I just put a tiny bit of that in my pores. This is what it looks like. Just to kind of blur anything out. All right, next is eyes. First I go in with eye primer. I love the Urban Decay, just the original eyeshadow potion. Or primer potion. Just apply a little bit on, and then I warm a little bit on the back of my hand. I like doing it both ways. A lot of people do it one way or the other. They just kind of pat in, and they also do the under eye. Just kind of helps keep my concealer in place. All right, then we're gonna go ahead and move into eyeshadow. I'm gonna use a couple different palettes and toppers today. I love this Dior Backstage palette. It's the Cool Neutrals. And then I'm just gonna start, I like using a blending brush just to start in my crease. So I'm gonna start with the super light shade right here. Just kind of put it all in the outer lid and over the crease. I have hooded eyes, so if I'm doing eyeshadow a little bit differently from you, that's okay. Just follow your eye shape, that's what's most important. Then I'm gonna move over into this dark shade right in the middle of the pan. And just kind of start building a little bit of definition. With eyes, I definitely have been known when I was at Sephora to either be super neutral or just like a crazy pop of color. Today, I'm just gonna focus a little bit more on those neutrals and maybe we'll see color at some point in the future. I'm just gonna keep blending. A lot of people love crease brushes and I like it too, but I definitely start with more of a blending motion just to kind of get everything in play. Then I'm gonna go ahead and tap into these two shades, use my crease brush just to really finish up the defined crease. And I just like to pull out my eyes slightly And then I take the crease brush and just do a tiny bit under the eye. Then I'm going to switch gears and I'm gonna move in to doing like a little bit of a topper shade. I'm gonna kind of be mixing two today. These are both Tom Ford, they're the cream and powder duos. So this one is going to be Young Adonis number 6, and then we have Naked Bronze number 1. I love these. They are a little bit expensive, but a little tip I've learned if you live near any outlets is to go to the cosmetic company store. They tend to have them at a really good discount. So ignore the broken mirror, but there's that on top, and then there's the cream on the bottom. So I'm gonna use a little bit of the powder just with my finger and tap it on the outer corner just because it's a little bit darker than the other shade I'm gonna be using, Young Adonis, for the center. And then I'm going to take Young Adonis, which is gonna be this color. I'm just gonna go ahead. Just pat it on it. It gives a very beautiful, very light sparkle. And then just to intensify, I'm gonna take the cream portion of Young Adonis. I'm gonna go ahead and tap it from the inner to the middle of the lid. And then just pop a tiny bit in the inner corner just to brighten things up in there. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and move into mascara. Or sorry, first I'll curl my lashes. This is the Schumacher eyelash curler. It's a big deal in the beauty industry. I personally think it's my favorite. I really also like the Kevyn Aucoin one and the Shiseido one, but I just think that this one curls best. The unfortunate part is it's very hard to find in the US, so I actually bought it in Vancouver, Canada, where I had a little bit of an easier time finding it. Then for mascara, I like to start with the Pat McGrath Fetishize mascara. This is what the wand looks like. It's a very dark black mascara. Just gonna go ahead and I start by like doing that weird mascara face that everyone seems to do. And just kind of getting it spread out where I like it. And I have very long lower lashes, which isn't something to complain about, but I'm gonna avoid doing real mascara on them just because I think that it makes my look a little bit too twiggy for what I'm going for. And then another mascara I love that I was, as the Laura Mercier, oh my gosh, Caviar Volume. I was urged to try it by my old coworker, Sephora Tia. She just was like, this makes my lashes look beautiful, because I kept asking her, like, what are you doing? Your lashes are popping. And so the wand looks like this. And I just throw a little bit on top just to give a little volume towards those outer lashes, because I personally, for me, just don't like fake lashes. It just doesn't work for me. I just don't like that feeling. Then next, primer's had a second to sit, eyes are done. I'm gonna bounce back to foundation. I love this one more than any. I've tried probably 100 to 150 foundations throughout my time in the beauty industry, and the Aqua foundation from Coach & Dough is #1 favorite. I use the shade 013, which is kind of like a peachy cool tone with a little bit of neutral, because that kind of matches my skin. This is the consistency. I'm gonna start with one pump and then we'll see what we need to add to fix my face. I like using a brush with foundation. This is the Morphe M439 brush. So I just take a little bit of the product and I'm just gonna start in the center of my face and just kind of buff everything in. The center of my face, especially around my nose and my chin, tend to be my red areas. So it's important to focus on those first. And then I just buff in really circular motions. I don't think it's possible to buff in too much, to be honest. I think that it's just all about looking like you're just hot naturally instead of how much makeup that I actually have to put on to look glam. So why I'm buffing this in, I just kind of wanted to talk about like kind of my transition in the beauty industry and like, you know, what I learned. Before I worked at Sephora, I worked at Starbucks. And while I was at Starbucks, I started wearing foundation because I wanted to. I wanted to experiment with it. And I went into an Ulta and grabbed the first Maybelline foundation that I thought of, and it was the palest one. And I'm very light, but I'm not quite that pale. And I used to just cake it on over my acne, and I looked like a clown. And luckily, I got recruited to work at Sephora, and I learned so much. I really didn't know anything. My skin was in shambles because I would just go party and never wash my face or makeup off and just wear it the next day and just, you know, live life like Courtney Love, basically. And so I learned a lot about just what I should be doing to my skin. I got on a skincare routine. I did some chemical peels, which really helped. Thanks again, Vanessa, and Skin Obsessions. And I was able to kind of start getting my skin to be at a baseline. So are you still gonna break out when you're in a skincare routine? Absolutely. Are you, you know, is less makeup perfect for you? Maybe not. But I just have found that the less makeup you use, you're doing it to emphasize instead of to hide who you are. I just think that it's super important to do that. I'm just kind of going on my neck. My neck is super red all the time, so I just try to blend it down a little bit. And then I always like to get my ears just a bit, just so that they kind of match my face a little bit. All right, one pump's out of the way. Gonna take a look in the other mirror right here. I think that looks good. It shows off like a little bit yellow on camera because the foundation is a little bit more of a dewy finish since I do have that drier skin type, but in real life, it looks pretty great. All right, next up is concealer. Since I don't like wearing a lot of foundation, I really rely on concealer to kind of give me that coverage. I like the Clé de Peau. It has a little bit of sunscreen in it, not to say that you shouldn't be using an additional, and I use the color beige. I use the Kevyn Aucoin Duet Concealer Brush. This is my absolute favorite makeup brush. If you said, Nathan, you only get one makeup brush for the rest of your life, this would be it. I'm just gonna kind of go in and kind of fix those couple little spots that I have that are hanging out. And then it's just important to tap and just kind of blend around. You don't want to go too heavy on any one spot because then it's like, oh, she's full coverage here and then not the rest of the spots. So just gonna kind of blend out. It matches the foundation really well too, which is a big part of it. It's super important when you're spot concealing to match it. And it's also a little bit more matte than the foundation, which is good because you don't want too dewy of a spot concealer because then that's just gonna show everything. And I think that we have addressed all the spots that need to be addressed. I'm just gonna put a little bit more coverage on my chin and on my fun little mustache and then around my nose. Just to erase all those red wine nights. All right, next I'm gonna take the other side. It has this fun little flat side of the brush too. And I'm just gonna carve out my brows a little bit. I don't do anything too special to my brows, but I definitely like that like line of concealer there just to kind of bring it all together and make my brows pop just a little bit. Then for the under eye, I use something a little bit more moisturizing because I find that with my skin type, I have dry under eyes. And so if I use a super like matte, heavy duty concealer, it just doesn't work. These are almost like balm concealers. They're from Kojindo as well. They're called the Mafanchi Moisture Concealer. And so I take the same brush because it has a little bit of that excess concealer on there, which is just kind of nice because it provides a little coverage. And I kind of mix. If my circles are really bad, which they are recently, I go into the dark one first and just kind of correct a little bit because you can use these as a corrector as well as a concealer. And I just kind of press in onto here. Then I'm going to take the middle, the big shade, just to kind of put a little bit everywhere. And then finally, I take the light shade and I highlight right here just to draw away from any lines on the far side of my face. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do a step I forgot on the eyes. I love this. It's the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil. It is in shade 500 Boundless Bisque, and I just put a little bit right in my waterline. And it's like, it's not white because I just think that white can look clownish or just like way too dramatic. It's just beautiful skin color for me. They also have it in a slightly darker shade if you're a little bit more of a medium complexion, so I definitely would recommend that if you're a little bit tanner than I am, which everyone seems to be. Now that the complexion is all set, I like to take the Laura Mercier little puff. This is more meant for powder, but I like to use it just to kind of press in a little bit around the face, just kind of make sure that everything's sitting all right for me. And that there's no like piles of makeup that I forgot on my face. Then I'm going to next move into bronzer just to warm up the face a little bit. I use the same brush for my bronzer, blush, and highlight. Not a lot of people are going to do that, but I like to. I just feel like that it kind of blends it together and gives me that very lived-in look that I strive for with my makeup. So I use, it's very well used, the Soleil Tan Chanel bronzer. And I take this, it's actually a blush brush from Sonia Kashuk, but I love the way that it frames my face when I'm applying my makeup. And I'm just gonna start very lightly, and I just do that 3 of warmth. Well, see, it draws a 3. You can see it more on the right, on this side. Just draws a real 3 on the face. And then I also pull it down my neck and just cut across a little bit, and then on the jawline. And then I just take it across my nose. I don't contour with bronzer on my nose at all. I just kind of slightly apply it. Then I'm gonna move into contour. Contour, I do use a different brush than the rest of them. I use the Morphe brush. It's the M459. And then for contouring, I use the Tom Ford #1 Shade and Light. It comes as a 2-pan palette with a little bit of highlight as well. I just use a tinge because it is very pigmented. And you wanna do it right, well, you wanna do it right above where you think you need to, because when you blend it with the blush brush, it's gonna kind of blend it down. So I do it right here, just kind of stamp it, and stamp it on the other side, and then I do it on my nose. Just to kind of make it look a little thinner than it is. And then just a little bit at the end. And then take the blush brush. And then I blend it down towards the hairline. I don't like contouring my forehead at all. A lot of people would probably think that it makes sense to kind of give myself a little bit of a smaller forehead, but it's just not really my thing. I'm fine with my big old forehead. My dad used to tell my mom that she had a slappable 5 head, so I feel like I probably have at least a slappable 6 head. Then next I do blush. I'm gonna use a couple blushes. The first one I use is the Kaiowise Cream Blush in Reverence. It is just about gone, but it looks like this. Really cool thing about Kaiowise too, I'm probably saying it wrong, so sorry brand, but they use refillable compacts. So if you fall in love with this blush and want to get a refill, it's this beautiful metal casing with a little mirror in there, and you can just go ahead and do that and spare the environment one more package. And then I take a little bit of blush right between my brows. Then I use a little bit of the Chantecaille Hydrogel Cream Blush. It is in the shade Happy. And I put a little bit on the back of my hand. It looks like that. It's very beautiful, very pearlescent, and almost a little bit of a coral. I smile. And just apply that right there and across the nose, just because I want to look sunburned. because that's a look that I often have, but it's fun when makeup does it. Then next I'm going to go in with highlight. I also am using 2 highlighters. As you can see, I'm very extra human being. This is the Glossier Halo Scope in shade Quartz. And a lot of people like to tap it on their hand or just apply it directly. I take the brush directly to it and just kind of stamp it on. Just to give a little bit presence of life and light. And it's cool because it has this little, like, almost balmy thing in the middle of it, so it's very hydrating. It's not like a dry highlighter. I tend to stay away from any powders just because I feel like it just weighs my skin down quite a bit. Then I use this Westman Atelier, beautiful packaging, by the way, good job, Gucci, lit up highlight stick, and it's in the shade Lit. And then this one, it's just like clear. There's a little bit of like a, I'll show you on my hand, there's a little bit of like a purple shine to it, and I just feel like that it's a good contrast to the gold. Kind of keeps that cool tone alive. And then I just like to put especially a lot on the tip of my nose, and I don't put like a little bit on top of my lips directly. Then we're going to do brows before I move into lips. Brows, I keep it just, like I said earlier, very simple. So I take this like little Sephora brow brush and I just brush them up and over. And then I take the Kush by Fiber Brow Gel by Milk. It's in shade Grind. And then just fluff them up. My brows are multicolored, so it just kind of helps them all match a little bit. Then, time to move into lips. I have pretty full lips, so I like to be very careful to not overline them, because then they look insane. They look like I got lip fillers. I used to overline them, and people at work would be like, oh my gosh, Nathan, did you get lip fillers finally? And I was like, no, I didn't. So first I go in with the Bite Lip Primer. And then with a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Lip Cheat, which is kind of dull. I don't mind it being dull because I don't want to put on too much lip liner, so it kind of keeps me in check a little bit. So just very lightly kind of outline the edges like that. And then I go in with the actual Pillow Talk lipstick just to kind of clean up the line. And it gives a nice little bit of color to the lips. Next, I'm going to go in with this YSL very water damaged lip color. I believe it's in shade 679. It's kind of worn off. It's the Couture matte lip stains. And I just put a little bit on my lips, and I take my finger. Just tap it in to get that beautiful, almost like your lips but better lip color. And then I take any leftover in this smile and just tap it into the little corners of my cheeks. And then take my brush, just buff it out. Then, last step of the lips, I take the Pat McGrath Lip Fetish Balm and blow up in place of a gloss, just to kind of add a little sheen back in the center of my lips. Then, last but not least, I'm not a big fan of setting powder, like I said, but since I'm doing a video today, I figure I might as well do something more exciting than normal. So I'm using the Garlon Meteorites in Two Claire. They're just kind of, they're color correcting. So there's green, yellow, every color that you can imagine. And I take this Becca powder brush just kind of swivel it through them. And just set my face. But I never set over the blush and highlight. Only where I need it. Because I personally do not like setting sprays. I don't like the feeling of water on top of your makeup or anything like that, so I don't do that. So voila, that part's complete. Then I just kind of keep it pretty simple with my hair. I'm a big fan of the Way Dry Shampoo Foam. My hair is a little bit drier, so I like to just put a little bit of that in. Let me grab that. It's this guy right here. Just kind of shake it. Comes out like this as a foam into your hand. And then I just take it. You always want to start with roots. Just kind of get in there through the hair. It's also a beautiful fragrance. I just like my hair to smell good. And I just take my random comb that I have no idea where I got it from, probably Target. I just brush my hair, I part it, and then I like to just kind of fluff it up just a little bit. I like it a little messy, a little bit exciting. Just kind of hide that receding hairline. And then, last but not least, good important step is just a nice little finish off with fragrance. I love the Tom Ford Black Orchid. I just spray a little bit. I learned from my old coworker at Sephora that you're not supposed to tap your wrists together. So it's important just to you want to spray both wrists, and then you want to kind of just spray and walk into it. That way that you're not, with parfum, just kind of disrupting the scent at all. So it's just important to do that. All right, thank you guys so much for, if you made it through, watching my video. Maybe I'll post something like this again. Let me know what you think in the comments or anything that you think I should do in the future. All right. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe out there and wear a mask. It's respect.